Warning, this video contains deaths, conflict, and other stuff. If you're under the age of 13, you must click off the video right now. Viewer discretions are advised. Our story begins in the Semanian Empire during the 1860s. The empire is growing, and it currently gets a lot of resources, more than how it did back before the Semanian Empire was even reached its greatest extent. In 1862, a banker named Ferdinand von Seemann decided to join the team and make more money. By the mid-1860s, Ferdinand was planning to make a company that would revolutionize the future, revolutionize the Semanian industry, and the whole entire world. It would build new, modern, and sleek vessels, and as well as trains that would change the entire world, and would branch out into other countries and would start developing their own versions. And by 1869, the Semania line we all know of today was officially founded. He called out Caird & Company to create the newest vessel of the company, which would serve the routes between Europe and South America, would be very comfortable, and would have the greatest accommodations of any ship. It took a lot of months to develop, but was finally finished 5 months after the company was founded. The new ship that the company had introduced was the SS Uruguay, one of the very first ships of the Semania line. She primarily served routes between Bataric and Montevideo, and was one of the most popular ships in the route. She also did the Bataric and Cherbourg routes. However, due to the conflicts with France and the Semanian Empire, this route was soon dissolved. By the early 1870s, the newly created White Star Line entered the scene, and the Semania line became Spectacle with their Oceanic class. So the Semania line decided to make more ships identical to the SS Uruguay. They decided to build 2 more sister ships, which will be called the Albania and the Newfoundland. These 2 ships were built, however they were not as successful as the SS Uruguay. And in 1874, during the introduction of the Britannic and Germanic, everything changed. The Albania and the Newfoundland were not the most successful vessels, and were eventually became the worst vessels to sail the Atlantic Ocean. While the Uruguay, on the other hand, continued her success and still remained popular. However, as the rage with France and Semania, it started to quickly escalate. This quickly became the worst conflict. By the 1880s, Semania declared war on France, which later on became a sad and an extremely tragic war in the rest of Semania's history. All of their ships later became troop ships for the war. Only one sank, however the 2 of them survived. The company now only had 2 ships in their fleet. However, they called out the Caird & Company again to build more vessels, so they were never a failure ever again. From 1881 to 1885, the Caird & Company constructed 7 vessels for the company. The vessels looked fabulous, however a lot of them didn't serve the original Bataric to Montevideo route. Instead, a lot of the ships served the Bataric to Miami routes, since Miami was the coolest place to be in back in the day. Also in 1889 was also the introduction of the SS Nuvrian, which was a livestock carrier and passenger ship hybrid that served between Bataric and Montevideo and Miami, bringing passengers and livestock and cargo to these cities. The ship sadly sunk during the First World War, but is still remembered, not as well known as it was before. All the way into the 1890s was the most important era of the Semania line, with the construction of few infamous vessels like the SS Bardia and the SS Governor of Germany, which we'll both talk about later. The SS Bardia of 1895 was the second livestock carrier of the Semania line, which served almost the same exact routes as the SS Hanoverian. However, she was much bigger than the Hanoverian and was more powerful than the Hanoverian and had more capacity. Later, the ship was sold to the Dominion line as the Celtic Man. However, her routes were changed and not the same routes as how she did back in the Semania line. The ship was sadly scrapped in 1907 due to maintenance issues and other issues. Even one of their vessels was even featured in the Spithead Naval Review, which was the SS Ionian, which is a ship that I'll never talk about in this video, and, later in 1899 was the creation of the SS Governor of Germany, and was the first modern ocean liner to have 5 funnels after the SS Great Eastern. She was quite successful in the beginning, only until the collapse of the Semanian Empire in 1914. She sadly sunk in 1917, but her legacy still lives on. However, this happiness wouldn't last long for the Semania line during the 1890s. Ferdinand, the founder of the company, sadly passed away because of a heart attack that was reported in his home. It was later replaced by a new founder and had new operations, more than previously. By the early 1900s, when the company was in the beginning of its new founder, the new founder decided to plan on making a new type of ocean liner for the company, which was called the E-type. One of the very first E-type ocean liners was the SS Montevideo from 1902. She was another ship that served the Batera to Montevideo route. Later, during the First World War, she was sold to the Uruguayan Navy as the El Aliños. Later, she was owned by the Uruguay line by the same name. In the 1920s, she burned on fire. However, she was refloated and was later scrapped. In 1904, the Montevideo sister ship, the Argentinian, would debut on the scene. Since being a near-identical copy of the Montevideo, she was a lot more successful than the Montevideo after World War I. The ship even lived longer than the Montevideo and survived into 1941. More and more ships of the E-type would later be made, including the SS Californian, Australasian, the SS Lakota, the SS Dakota, and the SS Italian. The reason why they're called the E-type is because of their superstructure, since it had the control room on the top and the 3 windows in the bottom, or the reasoning behind the name of the E-type. The E-type would continue on until the late 1920s and early 1930s, when the E-type was basically outdated by the 1930s standards. 1910s for Semania line was very successful, with the debut of the SS Sulzer in 1911. The Sulzer had a fairly successful life up until the 1920s, when she was considered useless. She once served as a troop ship during the First World War. However, she suffered a few damages from collisions and from a torpedo attacks. She almost sunk but was refloated. Thank you for watching part 1 of this video. Part 2 will come out later. Thank you for watching this video, and subscribe to my channel. Click the notification button to see our latest videos. And have a wonderful day. Bye.